Hello, my name is Bob today, and I'm a recovering alcoholic. I'm here to read the Daily Reflections book for February 9th, 2026. And it's called Getting the Spiritual Angle. How often do we sit in AA meetings and hear the speaker declare, "But I haven't yet got the spiritual angle"? Prior to this statement, he had described a miracle of transformation which had occurred in him. Not only his release from alcohol, but a complete change in his whole attitude toward life and the living of it. It is apparent to nearly everyone else present that he has received a great gift, except that he doesn't seem to know it yet. We well know that this questioning individual will tell us 6 months or a year hence that he has found faith in God. That's from the Language of the Heart, page 275. A spiritual experience can be the realization that a life which once seemed empty and devoid of meaning is now joyous and full. In my life today, daily prayer and meditation, coupled with living the 12 steps, has brought about an inner peace and feeling of belonging which was missing when I was drinking. Period. The end of the reading. Whew. So yesterday, I mentioned something about it. Yesterday's reading was Convincing Mr. Hyde, and it begins with this a different quote from the Language of the Heart on page 237, and it says, "Even then, as we hew away, peace and joy may still elude us." So that's what I was looking for also, was peace and joy. Not even necessarily joy to begin with. When I was drinking, I thought I had some kind of peace. I'll just leave it at that for now. When I was drinking, when I was drunk, I thought I felt some kind of peace. It's not really accurate. It just maybe felt a little bit, well, it felt different, and it felt maybe a little bit better than being sober way back when, say before I found a power greater than myself, because it's February here and we're talking about step 2 stuff, and the second step of Alcoholics Anonymous says, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. So let's see. It's not this in today's reading. Sorry if I'm skipping over something, because I jump around a bunch. In today's reading, it said, what did it say? Getting the spiritual angle. And then it says here at the end of the quotation from Language of the Heart, we well know that this questioning individual will tell us inside of a year that he has since found God. Even though earlier he says, but I haven't yet got the spiritual angle. And then he says his life and outlook on living has changed, and everybody else in the room is like, you've received a great gift. Yet the individual stating these different things punctuates that whole statement with, but I haven't yet got the spiritual angle yet. They don't understand. So wait a minute. Let me get back to me. I was looking for peace, which that's why I went back to yesterday's reading. Convincing Mr. Hyde, even after all this hard work at the program, peace and joy was still missing. And then I mentioned it took until, well, here's maybe one thing, because, man, I don't have any notes or research, just my life to go by here and my time in AA, which is 18 plus years. Step 2, came to believe a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Okay, this is what I skipped over. Now, it hadn't mentioned yet in the steps anything about God or spiritual stuff or any of this. Well, there's only one step previous. Your life's a disaster and you need help, basically. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, and that, well, it just has a big hyphen there. Admitted we were powerless over alcohol, hyphen, that our lives had become unmanageable, period. The end of the first step. So it didn't mention anything about God, did it? I don't think so. Or spiritual stuff. And then right away, came to believe, step 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity, period. The end of step 2. So then, the way I'm doing things here is going through this book, thinking, believing, after many years, noticing, I think I'm correct in this, that February is the second month, and the second step things, principles and stuff are discussed in the book here in the second month, not in the 7th month, 8th month, 12th month, anything like that. It's like second month, second step. Okay, so today's reading says, I haven't yet got the spiritual angle, which is fully accurate about that, because, like I just said, step 1 didn't mention anything about spiritual anythingness. So when it says in today's reading, a spiritual awakening can be a spiritual experience, can be the realization that a life which once seemed empty and devoid of meaning is now joyous and full. In my life today, daily prayer and meditation coupled with living the 12 steps has brought about an inner peace and, which is extra bonus, feeling of belonging, which was missing when I was drinking. Okay, so now I started today's little thing here about myself and my experience with what they're talking about in today's reading. When I got sober, I was looking for some kind of peace. And then, like, today's reading is what kind of prompted me thinking about it. It said I was missing peace and joy. And I felt like I didn't want or deserve to be greedy and ask for joy along top of peace. And so when I got sober, it took a long time. Let's say 2 years before I really, maybe this thing, that I had received this great gift, yet I didn't even know it yet. And it happened somewhere in this 2-year period, likely fresh into that 2 years. It's like even it took me way over a year and like 6, 7, 8, 9 months to realize that I had gotten the spiritual angle. Let me say that, I guess, because this guy's complaining, I haven't yet got the spiritual angle. Everybody around you knows that you have. And even if they tried to convince me, which they may have, I don't recall, I didn't believe it because I didn't feel it. I wasn't like living it somehow or something like that. So this does have something to do with, it says in the 12th step, way down, 10 more steps away from step 2. It says that having had a spiritual awakening, now is that different than a spiritual experience? I don't think so. It's the same thing, kind of, at least for today's discussion. Having had a spiritual awakening, how? It says, as the result of these steps. It didn't say as a result of practicing these steps. However, it does say we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So in step 2, not understanding or realizing that you've already received the spiritual angle, or it's in you and it's maybe dormant, whatever a spiritual angle is. It's going to take until like the 12th step. Doing all this stuff in between that's most of the program. And then it says, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics, which I'm doing here today, and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Here's some insight on that. Practicing these principles in all our affairs, even being sober for 2 years, I was very much Mr. Hyde and not Dr. Jekyll. If you recall yesterday's reading, that the good doctor, Dr. Jekyll, was trying to come up with a potion and an elixir or some type of beverage or whatever, a magic formula. This was written, I don't know, in the 1800s. Very Victorian, by Robert Browning, I think, wrote Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the first go around with it. And the good doctor, Dr. Jekyll, was trying to stifle and put down, hide away, dispose of, somehow lock up or get rid of the evil side of his personality. So he came up with some elixir he could drink. And I think at the beginning it did that. It lessened the influence of the evil side of him in all his actions and behaviors. I'm getting kind of wordy on this. But there was a horrible side effect that soon he was losing his grip and his want or need to be the good doctor any longer, because he would drink this potion, do unspeakable acts, come to and realize what a monster he had become. And then eventually, well, I don't want to ruin the story. It got out of control, and it was Mr. Hyde was taking over Dr. Jekyll's life. Dr. Jekyll was the good guy. Mr. Hyde, hiding, was the bad, ugly, evil alter ego that we all have. Okay, so now back to this thing. I haven't yet got the spiritual angle. And I said it took me about well over a year and a half, 18 months, more than 18 months of being sober, and I was still miserable. That's the thing that I said in yesterday's thing, that I realized somewhere, let's say at 17 months of sobriety, that I was still miserable, but I was sober, and a bunch of other things. And part of the bunch of other things, I was sick and tired of the same things, and sick and tired of new things, sick and tired of not realizing deep inside the changes that were happening to me. They were abundantly clear to everybody else, or lots of other people. I haven't yet got the spiritual angle. Okay, so that's today's reading. And I was, okay, so now I didn't want to get greedy and be looking for joy on top of the peace. I was finally realizing it was just around the corner. But I was sick and tired of, I think, probably struggling, somehow having to force peace to come about in my life. And I giggle at that because that isn't going to happen. That isn't the way. I was in the military, and I forget what our thing was, to project power to like maintain peace. So it's like, just go show people we can blow the crap out of everything. So you better listen to us or something. And that kind of thing. What was it Mother Teresa said about this? She would never go to like a protest against violence, but she would support some kind of peace movement, something like that. So, oh my goodness. After like 18 months of this struggle and being miserable and not understanding, I had already received this gift of some kind of spiritual angle, which I describe now way later in the program. The 12 steps says, having had a spiritual experience as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and practice these principles in all our affairs. Well, that first couple years, I wasn't doing that last part of the step 12. How could I? I wasn't at step 12 yet. I just got out of the gutter like less than 2 years ago. But what I found here is that this, where are we at? Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Now, in this book, the 12 by 12, it mentions that if you're looking for some kind of power greater than yourself, you don't need to go any further or even think any harder than to just listen to the people at the AA meeting you're going to, because it really points this out well in here, or states it well, what happens, I think. Sorry, this is so interesting I get hung up in it. So I'm going to put that aside, because I believe in this book yesterday, it has a more direct excerpt about using the AA concept, program, group, philosophy as your power greater than yourself. I'm sorry, I can't find it right this second. It mentions that if you're going to use the group about you of AA, it's pretty clear that they're running their lives better than you're running your life. And how did they do that and whatever? And I became interested in how did these people, I've heard their story, what a group of just really messed up individuals, at least at some point in their lives, and they sounded just like the kind of garbage I was rolling around in, and somehow now I'm looking at these people going, what a upright standing citizen, just a pillar of the community. What a great person. How do they do it? I wish I could. I want to get my life working in that kind of direction. How? So it's like, well, I came to believe a power greater than me just by listening to these people alone would help me get moving towards that direction, and then actually moving in that direction of getting my life back that would contain real peace and joy without having to struggle to get it. So that was the thing. I think that when this being sick and tired and not having a sponsor, that's the thing that happened after 2 years of fighting and struggling and clawing away at these steps and complaining and being in misery, but still maintaining sobriety. So good or bad. For me, that's the way it worked. Because, like in yesterday's read, I hit rock bottom while I was using. Deep enough, hard enough, fast enough, or whatever, painfully enough the second time that it's like I cried out to God that I knew, which it was a different kind of entity than I know today, before I killed myself, for some help in getting sober. And then things like I called the treatment facility and got set up on how to do an intake and all this crap. There's a lot more to that. But anyways, hit this rock bottom and end up in treatment. And then it's like I stayed sober for the next almost 2 years before I got the spiritual angle, where I understood that this coming to believe a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. So I understood like the sanity that I was missing was different than what I used to think. And the peace and the joy were different than what I used to think. Geez, where am I going with this? The spiritual angle. I think way months ago, 3-4 months ago, doing these videos. Then I took a break and just came back a week ago, something like that. What did I say? Why did I bring that up? The spiritual angle. Not knowing that I did have it. Honest. Who knows? What's my point for today, people? Can you help me? Give me a comment. Getting the spiritual angle. How often do we sit in AA meetings and hear the speaker declare, but I haven't yet got the spiritual angle? Prior to this statement, he had described a miracle of transformation which had occurred in him. Not only his release from alcohol, but a complete change in his whole attitude toward life and the living of it. It is apparent to nearly everyone else present that he has received a great gift, except that he doesn't seem to know it yet. We well know that this questioning individual will tell us in 6 months or a year hence that he has found faith in God. That's from the Language of the Heart on page 275. A spiritual experience can be the realization that a life which once seemed empty and devoid of meaning is now joyous and full. In my life today, daily prayer and meditation, coupled with living the 12 steps, has brought about an inner peace and feeling of belonging which was missing when I was drinking. Okay. So back to my little story here of being sober for the first 2 years, but feeling miserable. I don't know, 25% of the time to 80% of the time. I don't know. I still feel miserable occasionally now, but it's like a different kind of misery, and it isn't, I don't know, like an angry misery, if that's accurate. It's a good kind of misery, if that's even possible. That sounds paradoxical, counterintuitive, whatever. But it just feels different. And I think it's because now, as a result of these steps, the spiritual awakening, as they call it, or I've had a spiritual experience, and I've come to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. So that it's amazing that I just like this so much, this feeling of faith, and knowing by faith, like almost alone, that it's going to be okay, and it's going to work out good, and it's not going to be as bad as I'm thinking it's going to be, whatever it is. I still go to therapy, mental psychotherapy, occasionally now, like once every 4, 5, 6 months, something like that, because maybe I'm just not ready to sever that tie completely yet. But I used to be like Monk, if you ever watch that show on TV. I felt like I needed to go twice a day, every day. Because, man, I was a wreck for a long time. For like 8 years, my mental was messy. But it's so much better now. And for lots of reasons. And part of it is like the step 2 thing. Came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. At the very beginning, I didn't have any idea what a power greater than myself, other than my addiction, could be, because that thing was entirely running my life, had way more power in influencing my actions and behaviors, the drug of choice, alcohol, and the anger, say, as an emotional drug. Oh, man. So, how long am I going to talk today, right? Until I'm hoarse, likely. Oh, not knowing what a power greater than myself was, except for the addiction was definitely running my life. That was a power greater than myself. And, I heard something at a meeting one time. Keep backing up the steps is what I heard. I'm like, what the? To say, if I don't understand the step I'm currently trying to work, like step 2, say, came to believe a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity, maybe I need to back up and look at step 1 again. And what does step 1 say? Powerless over alcohol, and my life was unmanageable. There's a hyphen in there. Powerless over alcohol. Let's start at the very beginning. You can go even further backing up step 1. It says we, not me, we, us, together, a team, Alcoholics Anonymous, we admitted something, that we were powerless over something, alcohol. So right there, it's like, just keep backing up the step. I'm probably not going to be able to do this by myself like I want to try and do, and which I tried to do for the first couple of years. And got sick and tired of being miserable and struggling and fighting, being angry, man. Because I wasn't getting lit up drunk all the time anymore. I hadn't yet got the spiritual angle, if you want to put it that way. So finally, like I said, no, I started going to therapy for various reasons, and it took years of that. This first couple of years of being sober. It was such a different feeling, waking up sober and staying sober and facing the world without a drink in my hand. You know, like what's it? Trailer Park Boys. Julian, man, he's just got a drink of like scotch in his hand all the time. Every shot in that whole series, he's got a drink he's working on. And that was me, you know. I just always had some booze with me, pretty much. It wasn't that extreme, but anyways, not having that, what's the 5 stages of grief by that, what's her name? Is it Marion Kubler-Ross? I forget her first name. But some Swiss-American psychiatrist way back in, I think, 1969 came up with the 5 stages of grief. And what is it? DABDA? Disbelief, I think. Anger, D-A, anger. Oh, denial, anger, and then B, bargaining, D-A. Denial, bargaining, denial. I don't think that's right. Denial's first. Maybe it's let me look this up. Depression, and then acceptance finally. So DABDA, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. Being in that stage of putting the alcohol away, all those stages that required a lot of work. I'm still, I go through that. I don't know if I'm fully accepting yet. Often the last stage, as the person accepts reality, reaches an emotional balance, and begins to take actions that reflect this acknowledgement. So I guess I have accepted it. And I guess I'm saying what's amazing and what I really like and find interesting and curious is that even being sober 20 years now, I still just I forgot everything I've known about alcoholism, how perilously dangerous it is. It's a very real illness. It's steeped in all kinds of, mental illness, physical illness, spiritual illness. What's the big book say? Powerful, cunning, baffling. All that, patient. It's really stupid for me as an alcoholic. I definitely know I am an alcoholic. At least for me, I know I got that. There's also a thing I have, though, that I know I have this, is a desire to stop drinking. And that's all I really need for AA to work. At the simplest, basest thing, and if you can muster up the desire to quit drinking, not even having to quit drinking, you can still be drinking and start working this program. Because kind of like this, that acceptance is often the last stage. As the person accepts reality, reaches an emotional balance, and begins to take actions that reflect this acknowledgement. Just when you're going to an AA meeting, Julian, put that drink down, come on in, and let's try and get you fixed up and sober. Let's try and get you sober first, and then we'll work on fixing you up. Whatever. Oh boy. Again, I'm just going to stop here. This will never be finished, ever, really. So you can look forward to hearing from me again, I hope, if YouTube doesn't cancel me. So thank you for coming by here again today, and I'll get back with you later. Goodbye.